I am 90 years old, and I have watched everyone I have ever loved walk out that door. Some left quietly, some left suddenly, and some left in ways that broke something inside me that never fully healed. I have been sitting in this chair for 3 days now, trying to decide whether to tell you what I'm about to tell you, because once you hear it, you cannot unhear it, and it will change the way you look at every single person you love right now. But if I don't say it, I will carry it to my grave, and I have already carried too much. Let me start with something that nobody will ever say to your face. The people who leave you are not always the ones who stopped loving you. Sometimes they leave because loving you was the only real thing in their life, and real things terrify people who have spent their whole existence running from anything that matters. I learned this when I was 34. I was standing in a kitchen that smelled like cinnamon and cold coffee, and I watched the man I had built my entire world around put on his coat, pick up his keys, and leave without turning around. He didn't slam the door, he closed it gently. That gentle click was louder than any scream I had ever heard. I stood there for I don't know how long, and in that silence I made a decision that would quietly poison the next 20 years of my life. I decided I would never love that completely again. I decided I would always keep a small piece of myself hidden, locked in a room that no one else could enter. I thought I was protecting myself. I was actually sentencing myself to a loneliness so deep that even being surrounded by people couldn't touch it. Here is what I know now that I wish I had known then. There are two kinds of pain in this life: the pain of loving someone and losing them, and the pain of never fully loving anyone because you are too afraid of the first pain. I have felt both, and I am telling you with 90 years of scars on my heart that the second pain is worse. It is quieter. It does not announce itself. It just slowly empties you until one morning you wake up and realize you are a house with all the furniture removed. Everything looks fine from the outside, but inside there is nothing left to sit on. You are watching this because something in your life right now is scaring you. Maybe someone you trusted disappeared without an explanation. Maybe the person you built plans around suddenly became a stranger. Maybe you gave everything you had and got silence in return. And now you are standing at a crossroads that every human being eventually reaches. The crossroads where you decide whether love is still worth it. Sit with me for a moment, because I have stood at that exact crossroads, and the choice I made there is the one I'm still living with. When I was in my 40s, I had a best friend. We had known each other since we were young women with bad haircuts and even worse taste in men. She knew every embarrassing thing about me and loved me anyway, or so I believed. One evening at a dinner table full of people we both cared about, she said something about me that I will not repeat. It wasn't cruel in an obvious way. It was the kind of cruelty that wears the costume of honesty. She said it with a small smile, and everyone laughed, and I laughed too, because what else do you do? But something shifted in me that night, a quiet, permanent shift, like a bone that breaks in a way that doesn't show on any scan, but changes the way you walk for the rest of your life. I did not confront her. I did not cry in front of her. I went home, sat on the edge of my bed in the dark, and I thought about every moment I had trusted her, Every secret I had handed over like it was a gift, and I realized something that unlocked a door I had been standing in front of for years without knowing it. She had not betrayed me that evening. She had simply finally shown me who she had always been, and I had been too busy loving the version of her I had invented to see the actual woman sitting across the table from me. This is the thing about the people we love. We do not always love them. Sometimes we love the story we wrote about them. We love the version we constructed from our own hope and our own need and our own loneliness. We hand this invented person all of our trust and all of our vulnerability, and then we are devastated when the real human being, the flawed, frightened, selfish, beautiful, complicated, real human being, doesn't match the character we wrote for them. I am not saying people are not worth loving. I am saying you must learn to love the real person in front of you, not the novel you wrote in your head about who they could be. This is perhaps the hardest skill I ever tried to learn, and at 90, I'm still practicing it, because it requires something that goes against every instinct you have when you love someone deeply. It requires you to see them clearly, not the way you want them to be, not the way they were on the best day you ever spent together. Clearly, with all their contradictions and their wounds and their ordinary smallness, and then to decide, with full knowledge of who they actually are, whether you want to stay. Most people never do this. They fall in love with a feeling, then they spend years trying to make a real person generate that feeling on demand. And when the real person fails, which they always will, because no human being can sustain another person's emotional fantasy indefinitely, we call it heartbreak. But it is not heartbreak. It is the very necessary collision between reality and a story you should have let go of so much sooner. Now, let me tell you the thing I most wish someone had told me when I was young enough to do something useful with the information. Not everyone who says they love you is lying, but love without wisdom is one of the most dangerous forces on earth. My mother loved me. She loved me with everything she had, and from that love she shaped me into someone who believed her worth was entirely dependent on how useful she was to the people around her. She did this not to hurt me. She did it because her mother did it to her, and her mother's mother before that, a long line of women handing down their wounds wrapped in love, each one believing she was giving a gift. I spent my 30s exhausted, running from one person's need to another, giving and wondering why I felt so hollow. I thought I was generous. I was actually terrified. I had been taught that if I stopped being useful, I would stop being loved, and so I made myself indispensable to everyone around me, and I disappeared in the process. The morning I understood this, truly understood it in my bones and not just in my head, I was 52 years old. I was washing dishes, and a thought surfaced from somewhere very quiet and very deep, and it said, "You have never once asked yourself what you need. Not once, not in 52 years. I stood at that sink and I wept in a way I had not wept since I was a child, not because the realization was terrible, because it was true, and because I had wasted so many years waiting for someone else to ask me the question I had never asked myself. So I am asking you now, what do you need? Not what your parents need from you, not what your partner expects, not what your friends have decided you should want. What do you, in the quiet of your own honest heart, actually need? If you cannot answer that question, you are in danger. because people who do not know what they need become easy targets for people who do. You will mistake intensity for love. You will mistake someone needing you for someone choosing you, and those are two completely different things. Being needed keeps you busy. Being chosen makes you feel real.